the slide says, we're going to be talking a little bit about comparing apples and pears. So we're going to be looking at a lot of different types of bamboo flooring. By different types, I'm not talking about different colors and different patterns. I'm talking about different structures, the way the flooring boards are made, and therefore the different applications that they can go into. But before we start, I must also point out, obviously there's a lot of different manufacturers and a lot of different brands, just as, and I always come back to comparing it with things like tires and paint. I'll come back to that later too. But I must also point out that with any flooring, not just bamboo flooring, with any flooring, installation is probably more important than the product. You can get the best product in the world if it's installed incorrectly or inappropriately in the wrong way, it will fail.
That's my favorite subject.
Indeed, and that's why we value teaming up with people like Flooring Africa that have a long history in this and know the ins and outs of it. But installation, the right installation and the right method and the right installer is paramount.
And you have so many different types here, and you've got a solution for pretty much commercial, residential, indoor, outdoor, and it's expanding at a high rate of knots.
Exactly, but if you don't get it right, disaster. We've got 7 different types of bamboo flooring here. The choice in bamboo flooring types has increased quite a lot over the last 10 years odd. Prior to that, there were very, very, very basic, very little choice, but we'll go into that too. So first of all, the first one is solid flooring, and this is the one that most people know best. So that you'll all probably look at that and say, yes, I know that as strand woven bamboo flooring. By solid, we mean it's one ply, it's a homogeneous structure throughout the width of, throughout the depth, thickness of the flooring plank, and there are various types, and there's a slightly thicker one. We can hand that around too. So the solid flooring, the one ply is slightly cheaper to make because it's not particularly complex. It's the same sort of principle as timber flooring was always one solid plank cut from a log. It's much easier to make something as a solid, homogeneous plank rather than building up various layers. Although it's a little bit cheaper to make and it's a very good floor in the strand woven, or we call it high density, in that format it's very hard and it's much more durable than traditional timber flooring. It can, as far as installation goes, you can install it as a floating floor, you can install it glued down, and in some applications you can install it onto joists too, depending upon the thickness of the flooring, depending upon the subfloor. So once again, as I say, it comes back to the installation is very critical. It's not just your flooring. You must look at where it's going to be installed, what the conditions are, what the flooring is, what the budget is. So it's a successful floor is combining all these things in the right way. HDF, a multi-ply flooring like this chappy here, right? This is almost a hybrid, you can think of it as a hybrid between a solid bamboo floor, because it's got a solid top layer, and a kind of laminate type flooring in that it's got the HDF core. It's got 3 layers, it's got a thin softwood backing, the HDF core, and then the bamboo top layer. The reason for that is to reduce costs. Obviously HDF is a lot cheaper than solid timber. So again, it's a good floor depending upon what you want it for. You probably wouldn't put it in a railway station, but for a domestic situation, it can be a really good cost-effective flooring. As with laminate flooring, the HDF core is susceptible to damage if there's excess moisture, big spills, and that kind of thing. So you've got to know the flooring, how to look after it, but in the right application and treated and installed in the right way, you've got a floor that'll last for 30 years plus.
I find this the HDF options that are starting to emerge into our market, they really are taking technology to the next level with the high density cores. It does make it a little bit more cost effective, and it's quite easy to install. I've seen this in engineered, I'm seeing this in a couple of different formats, and they shouldn't be ignored just because sometimes there can be a little bit of a bad taste. People think, oh, it's like a cheap laminate. And I think when we start looking at the high level quality, like what a Moso delivers, the high density core really offers a lot of value. And within the product matrix, don't overlook it. I'm installing a lot of this at the moment. It really is a lovely option.
Yeah. The timber multiply, now you will all be very aware of engineered timber flooring. This is exactly the same thing, but instead of a timber top layer, it's got a bamboo top layer. So yeah, this pile here.
Mix them all up.
So in the same way that engineered timber has evolved from solid timber, the same principles apply to an engineered bamboo flooring with a multiplex softwood ply base. The softwood plywood is cheaper than a harder timber, and the multi-layers, the multi-plies cross-laminated make it more stable. So you can battle these days to find a solid timber flooring. The flavor of the month, virtually everybody now sells in engineered timber flooring for the reason that it's much more stable. It doesn't give the issues that solid timber flooring and solid bamboo flooring can give in terms of reaction mainly to moisture.
Also it allows us to have a wider plank. So with the stability of the cross lamination underneath, we can go for a wider, longer lamella on the surface, which really, we all know we want bigger, we want longer kind of thing. That's where that offers a lot of value.
Okay, so yes, so the main advantages of the engineered plywood-backed flooring is lower cost than solid and higher stability, which means you can increase width, as Barry says. And again, depending upon the particular product and the particular application, it can be installed floating, glued down, or on joists. Okay, next we go on to longitudinal bamboo flooring. This is also, as with the solid, this is one of the original bamboo floorings that was made out of the laminated strips. So the idea being that all the strips run in the length of the planks. Again, it's a little bit cheaper to make it that way than to cross-ply, than to cross-laminate. And originally, bamboo flooring this is how it was all made.
This is the original
first bamboo floors.
Yeah, this is what we had.
That's what we all cut our teeth on, and that's the only thing that you get. When bamboo floors was first brought into this country, something like 20 years ago, that's what it was.
So this one's what we call horizontal, where it's got like 25mm wide strips as such, layered up. But we also got it in the vertical, which is also like, what do you say, 8mm strips?
5 8mm, yeah.
5 8mm, which you see a little bit of a tighter pattern. So horizontal, vertical, solid. This is how we started, and this is where we've worked from. This is the origin point, and now we've explored, and now we're opening up to all these different varieties. But it still has a place.
Yeah, although you might think that it's old-fashioned, old tech, don't write it off, because we still sell a lot of it, and it can be a very cost-effective and a very good bamboo flooring in an appropriate setting.
And it's got the meat on it as well. It's just like
So it's normally tongue and groove. It can be supplied or made with a click system, but it's generally supplied as a tongue and groove. It's more suited to tongue and groove for various technical reasons. And can be a cost-effective and a very beautiful floor.
I had a lovely installation that I did on the West Coast, so I did that on Elastalon.
Yeah.
So Elastalon, which is a sticky adhesive underlay, which is designed for this type of flooring, tongue and groove. So the floor can actually move and expand and contract as a single unit or multiple units, but you don't have to have as many transition gaps, and it really, rather than bonding it to a substrate where maybe there's a slightly softer substrate issues, it worked out very well for that product.
One of the other advantages of the longitudinal one is that it's 100% bamboo. Obviously, the timber multiply or the HDF core has some non-bamboo components in it. So for a very strict green building project, if you're going for a green building rating, you probably get a greater number of points for a solid bamboo flooring than one that includes HDF or timber, depending upon where the HDF comes from, whether it's FSC, etc. But there are various hoops to jump through there, but that's one of the 100% bamboo flooring types.
And majority, if not all of yours, are FSC certified?
They are all available. Strictly speaking, bamboo is a grass, so it doesn't necessarily, strictly speaking, doesn't need FSC because it's not timber, but we do actually subscribe to it because people install it as an alternative to timber flooring. So yes, all our flooring is available as FSC at a slightly higher cost. There's probably a premium of about 3 or 5%. We've elected not to have our local warehouses as part of the FSC chain of custody, purely from a cost point of view, but we can supply directly into projects from our factories in China or our warehouse in Europe. We can supply FSC certified material with the applicable chain of custody.
Fantastic. That's really exciting.
So the next one, and this is probably our mainstay now, is the multiply cross-laminated bamboo flooring. We'll get to that, yeah. So this is also 100% bamboo, but the same principle as engineered flooring. It's got 3 layers and they're cross-laminated, which gives greater strength and greater stability. It's available either with a click joint or with tongue and groove. So again, it can be installed floating, it can be installed glue down, it can be installed on joists in the same way, depending upon the thickness of the flooring, the subfloor, the usage. So you've got to take into account all those factors, but it's the most versatile flooring. Again, you can have various different top layers, but very stable. I've had this flooring in my house for the last few years, and it's been flooded a couple of times, and I thought, oh my word, there we go. It's dried out and it stayed flat and straight. And even I was amazed by it. But that's the modern multiply cross-laminated bamboo flooring.
And we even did the video on that because you got the oil finish.
Yeah, indeed.
And so to sort out scratches, and because you had your dining room table and people slide out on the surface and you scratch the surface. And the next minute, Andy's going, I want to show you something. And he's like getting down and he's busy like oiling the surface and wipes it away. And it's like, they're gone.
Yeah. So
practical.
In any of these flooring types, you can get it in either a lacquered finish or an oiled finish. There's various types. So generally as you get various types of finishes in timber flooring, the same applies here. You can get different colors, different patterns, and a different finish. So this multiply but 100% bamboo cross-laminated flooring is probably our new mainstay of our whole range, and it's available in different thicknesses, different widths, so it comes in at different price points too. Right, the two-ply cross is a very interesting floor because technically it's a very good floor, but to look at you think, looks a bit cheap and nasty. It's only two-ply, but it's cross-laminated, so again the cross-lamination gives it greater stability and strength. Being two-ply with gaps in the back, it can bend. So often you take these out the box and there's a bit of a bend in it and people say, This is only a glue down floor. It cannot be floated. It's very thin. Therefore, being only two-ply, being quite thin, being quite small planks, again, it's a lower cost option than some of the thicker, wider boards. But being cross-laminated and glue down, being relatively small planks and tongue and groove only.
Great acoustics.
Great acoustics. Small planks mean the tongue and groove connection mean that expansion and contraction is taken up within each board, and therefore you can do very large surfaces, very large floors with no expansion joints. So this is a very good commercial floor, very good.
So again, getting the right product for the application.
Exactly. At first sight you may say, well, it's not thick, that's a better flooring. But if you want a large area, if you want a 100 square meter floor with no joints in it, and you don't want it to move, you want high traffic in a hotel lobby or something like that, the two-ply cross-laminated floor in the high density option is a fantastic bet. You'll have a floor that will last you 30 years and will not dent.
So this is side pressed horizontal, but you get it in the strand woven,
Yeah.
and you get it in the other formats as well. So this
Again,
is
you
just a
can get
sample
various
piece,
top layers, but that's just to show you the structure of it. Yeah. So again, the application has to go hand in hand with the choice of actual flooring. But again, as with all the other types, there's a choice of what the final finish looks like, colors and patterns in that top layer. But a really good commercial grade flooring. Lastly, Barry's favorite, the loose strip parquet flooring. So it comes in a tile like this, which is literally these strips bound together with sticky tape. We never take it like that and show clients because it looks like, what is this? These guys are trying to peddle snake oil. But technically, it's an amazing floor. The same principle as the old parquet timber floors, but this is all the strips are the same way. You can do it in a checkerboard pattern, but it gives almost a ladder pattern like that, which is very pleasing. The architects love it. And it's got some interesting technical features. So because it's tiny blocks, again, all the expansion and contraction is taken up within each block. They are microscopic, you can't see them, spaces, gaps between each board. So again, you can have hundreds or even thousands of square meters of this installed with no joints. You don't need air expansion gaps. You can put it right up against other flooring types like tiles. You can put it up against pillars, up against walls with no gaps. It's a very versatile floor, glue down only. It's relatively cheap to produce, and we sell it at a reasonable price because it's just strips of untreated timber.
Are you stealing my thunder? I got my slide. Don't give away my secrets just yet.
But it can be completely sealed too, so you can have almost a waterproof flooring. Again, 100% bamboo, so for a green building project, green star points, very, very good. So properly installed, it'll probably give you the most durable and the most hard-wearing bamboo floor that you can get. Do you want to hand that one around? Okay. And again, available in either the side pressed or the high density or the natural colors. So there are various colors, but yeah. But Barry loves this flooring, so I'll leave that more to Barry. You've seen a lot of samples, and we've spoken a little bit about high density versus laminated. The laminated is how bamboo floors, all bamboo products were made by slicing the bamboo stem, which is like a hollow pipe, slicing the wall of the pipe into strips, machining the strips perfectly flat and straight and square-edged, and then laminating them into layers and making those layers into boards or panels or flooring, and you can do that in various ways. You can laminate them all longitudinally, you can cross-laminate it. So it was only after about 10 years or more after making this kind of thing that the so-called strand woven or high density process was developed. So the high density, the compression of the bamboo fiber bundles makes the final product much harder, makes it a bit more brittle, so it can have a tendency to crack if there's pressure applied across it, but it's very much harder, so it's very popular for flooring because it will not dent. It's about twice as hard as oak. You've all seen timber flooring that has little pock marks from furniture and hard shoes and stiletto heels, but high density will not dent.
I think, from what I understand, is that we've got the capillary structure of the bamboo, that in strand woven, that capillary structure has been crushed and flattened. So the denting, the maximum amount of denting has already occurred, and that's how we make up the strand woven blocks as such.
Sure.
When it comes to the side press and the vertical horizontal, where those capillary structures are actually still intact, so that these products can still dent.
Yeah.
And
So
that is the
yeah,
difference.
They're very similar. In fact, bamboo strips cut from the stem, the physical, the mechanical properties are very similar to timber. Slightly longer fibers,
Yeah.
but it's about the same hardness as a medium hard timber. So very similar to oak, very similar.
Absolutely.
So it can dent like oak, but it's you can work it and machine it, everything else.
And we get these
even the same
boards in
colour.
like a 4 foot by 6 foot, I think they are, 4 foot by 8 foot.
Yeah.
So machine boards, so supporting the flooring installation, solid stair treads and all sorts of delicious things. You can support your install with the same aesthetic by making those accessories out of the furniture board, be it strand woven or the laminated.
Yeah, so not only stair treads, but balustrades, and we've done bumper rails for hospitals out of the high
chopping
density
boards.
material. Chopping boards, of course, as
sure
seen
we've
on
all got them.
MasterChef. So yeah, very, very much so. We've said that multi-ply cross-laminated gives greater stability and strength. Just generally in all flooring, smaller planks, tongue and groove joints enable you to do bigger areas without joints. And the soft timber, the soft backing, the HDF core can bring the costs down. One of the other differences between the laminated, so the plain pressed or the side pressed, is that as with timber, it's a bit more porous. When you create the strand woven or the high density, the compressed version, it's very much more dense and less porous. So as you can see from these, it's quite easy with the laminated finish to put a stain on it. So you can create customized colors that will absorb into the material more. On the high density, or some people know it as strand woven, the dyes don't absorb as much into the fibers. So you get more of a surface coating. So it's more difficult to color the high density boards. It can be done with lacquers and various clear.
But that's also the same science that's making it water resistant as well.
Exactly, yeah. So it's far less likely to stain if you throw a glass of red wine. I mean, drop a glass of red wine on it, or beetroot juice or Worcester sauce or anything else. But yeah, so it's, as with any flooring, it's got its pros and cons. So now we come back to Barry's favorite. So Barry, I'm going to hand over to you to tell us a little bit more about your experiences with the Industriale strip flooring.
Industriale strip flooring. So you've already walked all over my Industriale strip flooring because it's just over there on the other side. We did an installation when we first landed in our space at the back here at the Building Exhibition Center, and we started off with a raw slab. And we turned it into our little showroom. This is our physical space, but obviously we're more present in the digital space. But it goes through, it requires a craftsman to be able to apply this product. We go through a process of obviously priming and sealing the substrate, making sure everything's flat. We did grind the substrate prior to the primer. So, we want to make sure that we've got a very low tolerance of highs and lows because it will reflect in the top surface. We're using traditional, locally available supporting products of adhesives and coatings. We do have to be careful that we're using the right coatings because we have the product with such a dense surface and the capillary structure is not open. We need to make sure we're using the right lacquers as such. So we go and we have these tiles, which it's a similar concept as like a mosaic tile. It's on that floppy string background, that mesh that holds it all together. Well, when it comes to the Industriale, it's just basically held together sellotape. And it looks very rough and ready. You think, how is this going to turn into a beautiful floor? Patience. So you can see over there in the second photograph, it's all held together in with sellotape. And we basically just position them directly together with the sellotape, plonk it in, and just keeping it nice and tight. You can do a tessellated pattern as well. That's great. We don't have to worry about gapping or slightly highs and lows because we, as you can see, we attend to that a little bit later on. So once we have installed them, we go through a process of a typical sand with the drum sander. We are taking off the sellotape, we're taking off the highs, and we're also creating a critical key component to what makes this floor look beautiful and seamless, is we're creating that flour or the sanding dust of the bamboo floor. That gets mixed with like a product called Bona Mix and Fill, which creates the perfect matching wood filler. We take that wood filler and we spring steel it all over the surface, and that fills up all the nooks and crannies and give us a perfectly seamless floor. We will then go and sand it again over here, where we just go and take away the filler that is sitting on the top surface so that it's only sitting in the gaps that we were trying to fill originally. And then in this instance, we did a spring steel surface application for our coating. We wanted an industrial vibe here. We wanted a footfall, it's a satin matte finish. We got it from Bondstick, a nice local supplier, but it's a lacquer that has proven itself time and time again. And we've done absolutely nothing to that floor. We've actually abandoned it. So the cleaners will come through and they'll sweep it and wipe it down as per any other floor in the building center. But it actually looks beautiful. We did have to do some repairs or adjustments where we started putting in other structures. But because we have the individual panels and we can actually cut along the joint lines, we can hide those little adjustments and nobody is the wiser. And we sand and seal. This is classified, I would say, as a 150 year floor, because we can sand and seal this floor a good many times before we actually start getting to a compromised state where these little fillets will actually start getting ripped out during the sanding process. As Andy was saying earlier on, because they're all individual small little planks, we can run for hundreds of meters because all that expansion contraction, even though it is a very dense product because the capillary structure has been totally collapsed, there's very little air content. That's why it's so heavy. So when you feel the samples, the strand woven, it feels heavy because there's a lot of bamboo that's been compacted into that volume. And that's the secret. That's the secret sauce. And that's what provides us with almost like a bulletproof dream floor. You know, I can take a hammer to that floor. I can take a forklift over the floor. I can take an airport foot traffic. It really is, it's a lovely option. Obviously, going through this process requires a craftsman. It requires time and skill. And that does push up the overall price. But the general price of the product is actually really competitive.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorites. I've got strand woven bamboo, or I had strand woven bamboo in my own home because it does deliver such a beautiful end result. And that rich nutty brown, it's a global leader with regards to, out of the color spectrum, it really excels. It's a lovely tone. That lovely woody tone that we all fall in love with, strand woven bamboo.